Welcome back to the Many Toys of, the show in which we go over the action figure history of various Transformers characters. And this time around, in order to truly kick off Pride Month right, I want to cover one of the most famous couples in all the Transformers. Straight out of the pages of IDW and More Than Meets the Eye, it's Chromedome and Rewind. Before we begin, a big thank you to Muhammad Ramuni 4362, Atharv Gupta 3310, Redzilla 26, Neo Pro Gamer PL 312, and Remington Morningstar. Chromedome and Rewind were very much cut from the same cloth when it comes to prominence within Transformers. Both of them had only really been major players in G1, though it's kind of inarguable Chromedome was a bigger deal than Rewind. Rewind appeared in the movie and Season 3, he was one of Blaster's cassettes, but out of all of them, he had nowhere near as much screen time as, say, Ramhorn or Steeljaw. With Blaster's roles being greatly reduced in Season 3, his cassettes really never got that much spotlight. Chromedome did not get much better in the United States. He only appeared in the 3-episode Season 4, and there he was easily overshadowed by other Autobot headmasters like Brainstorm and Hardhead, which is strange because in Japan, in the Headmasters anime, he was the right-hand man to Fortress Maximus, a hot-headed, reckless young soldier who still understood what was right for the mission. It's funny to think that in the US, Chromedome has always been a shrinking violet, someone who is nervous and not all that well equipped for social situations, whereas in Japan, he was almost more like Hot Rod or Hot Shot. But that also meant that Chromedome's biggest appearances in fiction really were coming out of Japan before IDW. He would appear in video games, manga, he would be referenced in newer shows. Before IDW, Chromedome was very similar to a Six-Shot or even a Victory Saber in that most of his fame came from overseas. Of course, for Rewind and Chromedome, all roads lead back to IDW. And here, they were presented as some of the first characters to board the Lost Light, and initially, they were simply spoken of as being best friends. But as time goes on, it becomes more and more clear that they're much more than that. Chromedome and Rewind love each other, and they had been together for many, many million years at this point. And yet, neither one would call the other their first love. Chromedome had a very deep relationship with Prowl, and was still somewhat getting over him, whereas Rewind, he openly still searched for his boyfriend Dominus Ambus that had gone missing millions of years beforehand. That camera that's always on Rewind's head, it's so that he can try to track down Dominus. Rewind and Chromedome both lived in this idea that the other would rather be with someone else as their partner, and it led to them having some of their more intense fights, up until Rewind was murdered by Overlord. Even worse, Chromedome knew Overlord was on the ship. He was doing pneumosurgery on Overlord, but kept it a secret from Rewind. Chromedome had to go several issues grieving the death of his boyfriend and actively blaming himself for it because he never told him about Overlord. He was going to lobotomize himself so he would no longer have to grieve Rewind until he saw Rewind's final recording. A simple statement, "I love you." Now, they were eventually able to find a quantum duplicate of Rewind, but that didn't smooth everything over quite yet. Simply put, at this point, both of them blamed each other and themselves so much that it was hard to return to normal. They loved each other, but there was this sense that maybe they weren't right for each other. But that all changed when they found Dominus Ambus. On the Necrobot's planet, they realized that the DJD had turned him into the pet, and Chromedome was willing to give up his life in order to restore Dominus Ambus and allow Rewind to be happy. But Rewind instead chose to kill Dominus and save Chromedome. With that one action, it became clear this was no longer a case of rebounds or replacement goldfish. These two were made for one another, flaws and all. For that reason, it's hard to imagine doing a video for Chromedome without Rewind, or a video for Rewind without Chromedome. So, this is a 2-in-1. We're going to go through the action figure history of Chromedome before switching over and talking about all of Rewind's toys at the end. Chromedome's original toy was a 1987 Headmaster, and out of the original Autobot Headmasters, Chromedome might be the best one. His proportions are the most solid, his car mode looks great, and I love his head design in general. I will say, Chromedome's color scheme, it has to grow on you. Beige, brown, and red give him a very muddy, somewhat dull color scheme, but for a character who's supposed to be so nervous and shy, it kinda works for me. In Japan, however, Chromedome cleaned up in 1987. Starting with the Transformers Junior version, this is a much simpler version of the Chromedome toy, but still has the Headmaster. This Transformers Junior Chromedome would be released that same year in the Cybertron Leader set, alongside a vinyl figurine of Rodimus Prime, and a small die-cast metal figure of Metroplex. Funnily enough, Transformers Junior Chromedome was in yet another multi-pack this year, as he was in the Hero set alongside the junior versions of Optimus Prime and Fort Max. That's pretty sick. Even though Chromedome never had a proper decoy, you could get a soft rubber figurine of Chromedome similar to the decoys from Kabaya's Transformers Caramel line. There is also Kabaya's Transformers Choco line that would give you a snap-together model kit of Chromedome. Finally, to bring a momentous first year to a close, Kabaya gave yet another model kit to Chromedome in their Transformers Gum series, and this might be my favorite G1 Chromedome. Yes, he cannot transform, you have to take him apart and put him back together, but his proportions are solid, and the choice to turn his brown plastic to black makes his color scheme a lot more interesting, at least to me. After so many toys in 1987, it's kind of crazy to think that Chromedome only got one toy in 1988, but this is honestly kind of amazing. You could have gotten 1 out of 100 chromed silver Chromedome trophies from TV Magazine after they put on a coloring contest. What they would do is they would give you line art of point blank and told the kids to draw, but the most skilled, which is to say, the most masterful and the closest to the proper design, would have gotten a gold chromed Optimus Prime trophy, but the ones that, quote, showed the most imagination with the color schemes would win the silver Chromedome trophy. It was a way to encourage kids to either be creative in recreating an existing design, or be creative in making a really solid new design using a familiar bot. Chromedome made no appearance in the Beast era, only showing up again in 2001 for the Super Collection figure line. This was a PVC figure of Chromedome, and you could either get him or his translucent plastic version. It would take 13 years for Chromedome to get his next toy, but in 2014 we got the Timelines Chromedome. This Chromedome is a retool of the Prime Robots in Disguise Deluxe Class Wheeljack, and the reason this toy exists is because at the time there was no toy that depicted IDW Chromedome. So, BotCon and Timelines stepped up to the task and made a pretty serviceable version of him. The Prime Wheeljack toy actually does share some interesting proportions with the IDW Chromedome. Granted, you don't have the massive shoulder wheels, but the big shoulders going into a very thin waist and small lower body is something Prime Wheeljack already did. And I honestly think the Chromedome colors look amazing on this mold, especially in car mode. The most popular official Chromedome right now is probably the Titans Return Chromedome, and for good reason. Despite coming out in Titans Return, I don't think you could do a better modern reinvention of the character than this. He's very similar to Combiner Wars Dead End, but he is his own mold. His articulation's still really solid, he has good accessories, the colors are near perfect, and my favorite detail is his head is based on IDW Chromedome as opposed to G1 Chromedome. There's also the fact that the Titans Return toys are unbelievably playable, especially if you want to make use of the pilot and all the cockpits you could find around Chromedome's vehicle mode. This is still an incredible toy, one of the best of any Headmaster, at least from Hasbro. Titans Return Chromedome was so good, that's basically the only version we've gotten of him since then. That same year in 2016, we got the Legends Chromedome. This was the Takara Tomy release with much better paint. He's much more anime accurate, and I still enjoy him, but I got a soft spot for that Titans Return version. Had you gone to Wonder Festival in 2017, you would have gotten Chromedome in the Headmaster set. This was actually a way for Japanese fans to get the US IDW-inspired Chromedome head sculpt, because the Legends Chromedome had a new head that was based more on the anime. That brings us to 2020 and the latest official Chromedome, that being the Retro Headmaster's Chromedome. This was a Walmart exclusive repaint of that Titans Return Chromedome, this time made to be as accurate to the US cartoon design as possible. It's still a very good toy, definitely still holds up in 2020, and I'd argue still holds up in 2025 as well. That brings a close to the official Chromedome toy history. But I think now is the time to veer into third party and see not only how other companies have depicted Chromedome, but also how they might have depicted a Rewind over the years. The first third-party Chromedome I remember was the Fans Project Code. This was a chug scale Chromedome that was heavily stylized. It actually matched perfectly with Fans Project and all the figures they had released beforehand, and made an awesome collection of Headmasters. I still adore their Brainstorm, and I'm looking for their Chromedome because this guy looks so good. If IDW Chromedome didn't exist, this is how I would imagine him looking. He has a lot more of that Japanese robot design mixed in, just in a different way from the official IDW look. I will say though, Chromedome has cleaned up in the Legend scale. Unique Toys sent out Tom and Jerry. This was a Legend scale Chromedome and Weird Wolf, and these guys are amazing. Like, especially the Weird Wolf is stealing the show, but Chromedome is also no slouch. His articulation's great, and he looks good in both modes. I'd love to track these guys down at some point. DX9 did a mini Chromedome named Michael, and he looks honestly even better. I love how his wheels look on his hips. I know that's a weird thing to focus on, but it does give me more of a sensation that this is the Sunbow design. It doesn't look proportionate, and yet when it transforms, those are indeed his wheels. It's kind of magical to me in a very dumb way. The most recent of these Legend scale Chromedome boys has to be the McFans Toys, Chromium. And out of all of them, he's the least cartoon accurate, but also I think is the most accurate for a modern collection. If you're wanting a more, say, IDW Legends Chromedome, or one that maybe fits the Headmasters aesthetic a little bit better, and when I say Headmasters, I of course mean the anime, this might be your boy. Now that's Legend scales. If we were to bulk up to Masterpiece scale, there's the Make Toys Cupola. And I kinda hate that the Make Toys Headmasters get slept on as much as they do. They were some incredible bots. Granted, Make Toys never finished the lineup, but Chromedome shows what they could have done with some of the more outlandish designs. He is incredibly well done. His proportions are near perfect, his articulation's great. It's Make Toys. Make Toys, for a time, was the Cadillac of Masterpiece scale and Transformers. Nowadays, it's probably more Fan Toys' bag. But Make Toys was no slouch, especially with their Headmasters. With all of that said, the most popular of all third-party Chromedomes is probably the Mastermind Creations Menno. This is the IDW Chromedome design, and to date, it's the only toy of an IDW Chromedome. And even better, he comes with Rewind, named Motif here. Rewind and Chromedome look incredible. I am so amazed at how well they captured Chromedome's weird proportions. Because they are very weird proportions. And yet they look so good in 3D, better than I would have expected. Rewind, of course, looks perfect. I don't know why no one talks about this, because IDW Rewind has such a good look, especially for a smaller Transformer. The two of them together just make for a perfect duo. And my favorite accessory is the fact that they're able to hold hands. They each have a shared piece that makes it look as though they're hanging on to each other, which means that you can have them going on a nice walk, or going to see the in-laws, or if you really want, you can just have Chromedome start to throw Rewind around like a weapon, just whatever you're into. Of course, if we're talking about Rewind, I could point out that this isn't the only Mastermind Creations Rewind, because they did the Ocular Max Motif. This is their Masterpiece scale G1 Rewind, and I'll be honest, the toy looks great, but man, G1 Rewind looks like such a joke. Like, IDW Rewind has this really cool, almost Star Wars-esque design, especially with the shoulder pads. Here, he's just the most boring block. Before Mastermind Creations, though, there was actually another Masterpiece Rewind, that being the KFC EVI Metal Transistor and Hi-Fi. Transistor is still a really well done Masterpiece blaster, and Hi-Fi was the Rewind that came with him. Now that Third Party has us talking about Rewind, why don't we go into the official toy history of one of our favorite cassette boys, starting with 1986 and the original G1 Rewind toy. Here's what I'll say. For all the fun I was just making of him, when you compare G1 Rumble and Frenzy to G1 Rewind and Eject, Blaster's boys do look better. Their proportions are a lot sharper. You can tell that at this point Takara and Hasbro had really started to figure out how to make magic out of the cassettes. I really enjoy Rewind for what he is, even if he does have pretty limited articulation. What's really interesting to me is that Rewind had a second toy in 1987, a variant with golden guns. This is much rarer to come by, and we're not entirely sure how it happened. But even still, if you are as big a trivia buff as Rewind, now you get to know that he has two variants. That's kind of neat. Just like Chromedome, Rewind totally skipped the Beast era, only showing back up in 2009 in an Encore 4-pack. He was packed alongside his best buddy Eject, fighting off Ravage and Buzzsaw. In 2012, we technically got our first new continuity Rewind, that being the Generations Fall of Cybertron Rewind. He never appeared in fiction, but he is a retool of the Generations Legends class Fall of Cybertron, Rumble, and Frenzy, and he honestly looks a whole lot better than them. I quite like his head sculpt. In 2013, Katara Tomy would release their version of Fall of Cybertron Rewind. He's better painted, but otherwise is exactly the same. Funnily enough, 2013 would also have Rewind enter another new continuity, this time being Shattered Glass. Here, he was in a massive e-hobby box set that included Shattered Glass Soundwave, Shattered Glass Blaster, Shattered Glass Ratbat, Slugfest, Ramhorn, and Solarbot. We are getting to a very odd Rewind now. In 2014, there were the Timelines Rewind and Eject, and here, they're tanks? Now, there is a reason for this. In Japan, in the Transformers United line, there was a unique deluxe mold given to Rumble and Frenzy. No longer were they cassettes, instead now they turned into tanks. It was just a way to help reinvent the characters and give them some new toys. Those figures never came out in the US, so instead of getting Rumble and Frenzy, Timelines eventually used the mold to give us Eject and Rewind. And as odd as he is, I do still enjoy him. I think that his proportions are good, his transformation's great, and for a Rewind/Eject/Rumble/Frenzy that doesn't turn into a cassette, I like the idea that they turn into tanks. I don't know why, it works for me. The shapes are very, very similar here. Come 2016, we'd get a Rewind that tried to homage every Rewind to come before him, because the Titans Return Rewind is a true, wonderful, somewhat chaotic work of art. His robot mode is of course the IDW Rewind, right down to the little camera next to his eye. Wonderful detail. He transforms into a data slug, which is absolutely supposed to be a cassette tape, and that cassette tape can go into the Titans Return Leader Class Blaster, but Rewind also has his own vehicle mode, that being the tank again. So now we have references to the previous Timelines Rewind, G1 Rewind, and an IDW Rewind all together. My only issue with this Rewind is the fact that his left arm is hollow, and I don't know why. It looks very bizarre, to the point that when I first saw him in stores all those years ago, I thought that I had found a defective one. But no, Rewind just for some reason has a hollow arm. Later that same year, we would get the Legends Rewind and Nightbeat. Here's something odd. In 2022, Shattered Glass Rewind would get a new mold before Rewind proper would. He appeared in the Shattered Glass collection as the pack-in with Autobot Blaster. He retains the great color scheme of Shattered Glass Rewind. Unfortunately, he he is almost entirely translucent plastic. Oh, it gets worse. In 2023, we have gone our most recent rewind to date. He was packaged alongside the Legacy Twincast, but he is smoky translucent plastic. He has many, many reported breakages, just like his shattered glass brother. And it's a shame because this is a pretty good toy, very well engineered for the scale, and yet I'm scared to even look at him. And that's it. Chromedome and Rewind have not had many toys. They've not appeared in many continuities. Aside from IDW, they've never even had that much spotlight. And yet, that one run, that singular version of these two, has made all the difference. Rewind and Chromedome within the fandom experience a type of celebrity that most non-A-listers never get within Transformers. They've never had much appearance in anything in terms of TV or movies, and yet they rank amongst some of the most popular characters. And I think it all comes down to their relationship. Even if you aren't one to think of them as being a couple, I think that every person alive, every person has had a relationship like this. Maybe not a romantic relationship, but maybe a relationship with a family member or a relationship with a friend. A relationship in which both of you feel like you can't do anything right, and that you're an active detriment to the person you want to be around. It's human. It's so natural and yet so tragic how we can't accept the worst parts of ourselves. The people around us can accept our flaws. The people around us can even love our flaws. But we will see our flaws as the reason as to why things don't work, for the reason as to why arguments start, or why there are disagreements. And I'm not here to say that you should never work to better yourself. No, far from it. But you can also need to understand that not everything that you see as a flaw is a flaw. Chromedome thought that he would never measure up in Rewind's eyes. Rewind felt that he was too anal to ever possibly be the same romantic and experimental boyfriend that Prowl was for Chromedome. They both had such insecurities about what they brought to the table for the other that they never even noticed that their partner, their best friend, their boyfriend, the one bot they loved more than any other, was having the same exact anxieties. It took Rung pointing it out for them to finally realize that they could forgive themselves. That's, to me, the most beautiful part of Chromedome and Rewind. They don't have to forgive each other. It's not that they're mad at each other, they're mad at themselves because they feel like they can't be the partner that the other bot deserves. That is so beautifully human, so ugly in its humanity, and yet so gorgeous at the same time. But guys, I'll ask you, which was your favorite Chromedome? Which was your favorite Rewind? And are there any Chromedomes or Rewinds you're looking for right now? We are entering Pride Month, and it is very important to me that every episode of Many Toys of this month features characters who are part of the LGBTQ+ community. Next up, I want to talk about our 9,000 subscriber special, as well as the boyfriend to Drift in IDW, that being the Autobot Medic Ratchet. It's going to be a long video, but one that I'm very excited to do because the Docbots always had a soft spot in my heart. I can't wait to get around to that video, and guys, I hope you enjoyed Chromedome and Rewind. I hope that I did a good job at explaining why these two mean so much to me, and I also hope that everyone who requested these two is happy with this video. But guys, to see that and a whole lot more, we'll just have to wait to see what we get up to next time.